Hello out there in YouTube land, and welcome music lovers all over the planet. We're going to talk today about Rootless Voicings, and we're going to use the song A Train. And here's a copy of the sheet that you could print out. It's in the description below, a link to this. So we're going to talk about Rootless Voicings. And it's mostly for piano, but I think if you play guitar, it could be applicable. And also just anybody who wants to understand harmony a little bit better, I think can benefit from this. And in this video, we're just going to look at the major chord, the major 7th chord or the major 6th chord, like that you find as the first chord in A Train. So. Now this second chord, D7th, in this case it's a D13, 9, it's a D7th with a 13 and a 9. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. These are very useful voicings, but they're a little bit more complicated than the major voicing. So we'll tackle the major voicing first, and we got a C. Some charts just say C for the first chord. So C obviously is a little bit on the boring side for a jazz song. And you know, if you see the chord symbol C, if it's a rock song or a folk song or something like that, C is probably the right chord. But if it's a jazz song, a song with lots of other sophisticated harmonies in it, dominant 7ths with flat 9s and things like that, chances are that for that chord, if it just says C or just says F, it means a major chord with the possible addition of a 6th, a major 6th, or a major 7th. And also maybe some extensions too, what we call tensions or color tones or extensions, things like the 9, the sharp 11, the 13, all possible for a major chord. Okay, but let's just take the 6th chord first. So if the chord chart says C, we can play C6th, we can play any inversion, and you'll notice that the chord is exactly like A minor 7th, but we're using it as a C6. Now, one way to make this a rootless voicing, and why do we want to make it a rootless voicing? Well, there's kind of two reasons. One is to give the bass player a little bit more freedom. Now the bass player can play the root without anybody else playing it. And also, it just gives a nice rich sound on the piano, and even without the root, psychologically our ear kind of fills in the root, especially if we know the song and the melody. A lot of times we don't even notice that the root isn't there. So you know roots and it sounds pretty complete. There it is with the roots. Okay, so where did I get this chord? Well, it's the C6 chord, and I've added a 9th. And I've taken away the root. And some might see it also this way, is that I've changed the root to the 9th, and that's a very common substitution. Take the root and move it up to the 9ths. Okay? There's an inversion of this chord. The first inversion looks like this, and honestly, I never really hear or see piano players doing this inversion very often, but I do see the next inversion quite a bit. So here we have the 6th on the bottom, the 5th on the top of C, that's the 6th, and there's the other one. Now, if you make a mistake on this one and play it like that, instead you got the 6th and the 7th instead of the 5th and the 6th, and that works pretty well too. Let's see, what would that be here? It'd be like that or something. So that's another possibility. Here's some other possibilities. Play a major 7th chord, and once again, take the root, move it up to the 9th. Play any inversion. That's going to sound just fine. Little clusters, just 3 notes perhaps. Or these 3, nice stack of 4ths. That's going to work. And you can move that kind of stuff around. You can move it around a little bit too, as long as you follow the key signature, which is pretty easy in C. Now down on the 3rd line, we're in F, so if you're going to do that in F, you have to watch out for B flat. And that's a pretty modern way of playing there, so I'm not recommending it for beginners right off the bat. Why don't you learn these basic inversions first? And down here on the 3rd line in F major 7th, first I've got it in root position, then I've got the 6/9 version. Here's the the 6 and the 9, and the inversion of that one. And here's an F major 7th where we change the root to the 9th, or just take away the root and add the 9th, and any inversion of that chord will work. And there's some other kind of clever things you can do when you're comping for a lead or playing under a solo. You can approach it from chromatic below or above, works pretty well. And the little diminished chords going into chord tones like that. There are some other possibilities that you can do. I like little fragments too, are nice.